I read a story in a devotion not too long ago that kind of jumped out at me. There was a family that was wanting to sell their house. And so they made a contract with a realtor to sell the house. And the realtor thought it would be a good idea to have an open house to show the house, to try to find a prospective buyer for that house. Well, we've never gone through that. You might have. I don't know. But one of the things that the realtor told the parents was to make sure that they said something to the kids to not talk to any of the prospective buyers that were looking at the house, not to say anything to them. Well, there was one man that was pretty interested in the house, and he came back a second time and was looking at the house, and he noticed that their little daughter was playing in the side yard. And so he went out there to talk to her. And he asked her if there were any secrets about the house. Well, this little girl kind of looked at him with kind of a Shirley Temple look, a smile, and didn't say anything. Well, he was pretty persistent about it and kept asking her, and she didn't say anything. And he finally said, well, you can tell me. I won't tell anybody that you did. And she finally said, well, there is one secret about the house, but I'm not supposed to tell you about it. But he just kept on at her, and finally she gave in, and she went up to him and made him bend down, and she whispered in his ears, there's angels that watch over us. Not exactly the answer he was looking for, but it's the answer that we need over our houses, isn't it? We needed to be reminded that angels are watching over us. I mean, just those words. Whoops, turn it on. Just those words, angels watching over me. Doesn't that just kind of just flood over you? Angels watching over me. Remember the old gospel song that we used to sing? All night, all day, angels watching over me, my Lord. All night, all day, angels watching over me. Don't we need to sing that every day? Be reminded of that every day? Remember the verses to it? I went down to the valley to pray. Angels watching over me, my Lord. Soul got happy and I stayed all day. Angels watching over me. Isn't that what we need in this broken world? Verse 2, when my heart is sad and blue, angels watching over me, my Lord. I call on him, and he sees me through. Angels watching over me. Another verse is angels standing all around me. Angels watching over me, my Lord. They tell me of how much God loves me. Angels watching all around. I started to put a video on here by the Oak Ridge Boys singing this, but then I thought, probably YouTube will kick us off and won't. So I didn't do that. But it's a popular old gospel song that we've sung as kids. So it's an old song. But Campfire, we used to have a good time singing songs like that. Angels watching over me all night, all day. Now, isn't that a nice thought? Isn't that a nice thought to hold on to? But I think as we got older from campfire, and we started experiencing some of the things of this world, some of those tribulations, I think we've started asking ourselves, is that true? Do we really have angels that watch over us? Do angels really watch over God's people? We're going to be looking at a number of scriptures today. But I'm using the basis, the main focus in a story that's familiar to all of us from 2 Kings chapter 6. And we're going to be concentrating more on 16 and 17. But the whole story, you'll remember the story. It's a story of the kings of Syria was having battles with the Israelite army. And he would set up ambushes for that army. And God was revealing to Elisha where those ambushes were at. And Elisha was going to the king of Israel and telling him where the king of Syria had the ambushes set up. And so they would go in different routes. Well, obviously, the king of Syria is getting kind of upset about this. And he pulls his group of advisors together, and he's thinking that one of you guys are telling them what's the plan. One of you guys are a spy, but they insist that they're not. And they've heard about Elisha, a prophet of God, that is telling the Israelite people where these ambushes are set up and warning them about it. Well, the king sends out some spies to find out where Elisha is at. And they come back and they report that Elisha is staying in a small town that's called Dothan. And so the king of Syria sends out a massive amount of soldiers, a large army with chariots and horses to capture Elisha. And the scene now is set up to where Elisha and his servant during the night are in this place in Dothan, and the army completely surrounds the town. Now, here again, use your imagination with this. It's kind of comical, but it adds new feel to a familiar story. Elisha and his servant, they wake up in the morning, and Elisha's servant, like a good servant, goes outside to the well to pull some water. But when he goes outside, he looks up and he sees this vast army all around them. And he is panic-stricken, filled with fear. And he goes back in, and can't you just see this servant going, Elisha just kind of saying, okay, calm down, take a deep breath, what's going on? It's okay. And finally, there's an army all around us. What do we do? And can't you just kind of see Elisha kind of get a little smile, maybe a little chuckle? and this is what he says here in 2 Kings. Don't be afraid. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed, open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and he saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Now you see why I say Elisha had a little chuckle, a little smile on his face. Because he already knew they were there. But his servant didn't. And his servant's in a panic. And he prays, Lord, open his eyes. This is a repetitive theme that goes on throughout Scripture. God sends angels to watch over his people. We see in Psalms, the psalmist writes, the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. Another psalm, Psalms 91, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. And then in the New Testament, we read in Hebrews, are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who inherit salvation? Now, the interesting thing here is the word that is used to serve is diakonos. And it means to render service to minister to. It's where we get diaconate from. So God sends his angels to watch over, to deliver, to guard, and to serve you and me. You know what that means? We've got friends in high places. Friends in high places. Now, what should that do to our confidence of living? What should that do to your confidence about living? So Elisha prays, open up the eyes of the servant. Suddenly the servant's eyes are opened, saw the mountains full of horses and chariots of fire. All around them, between the army and them. Why didn't the servant see that the first time around? Our problem that we have is like the problem that the servant had. Our eyes are too focused on our problems. Too focused on what is threatening us. When we do that, we forget the truth that John wrote in 1 John. Greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. Greater who he who is in me than he that is in the world. Now there's something that happened this morning that only the Holy Spirit can make happen. I've seen it happen a number of times with Minor and me when I was leading worship. And it happened this morning with Melissa and me. She always asks me Wednesday night what we're going to be, what the theme of the message is and so forth. And she tries to pick out our worship songs to fit within that. Well, we sang a couple of new songs this morning. New to us. But not very long ago, not too many years ago, Chris Tomlin wrote one of those songs. And I had already had that chorus in my message that she did not know about. That's how the Holy Spirit works. But this song, the chorus of it, has these words. I know who goes before me. I know who stands behind. Who is it? The God of angel armies is always by my side. The one who reigns forever. He is a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. All day, all night, angels watching over me. Where did that come from for Chris Tomlin? Well, I remember reading a while back about this song, and it might have been in a devotion or something like that he wrote. But he was looking at David and the David and Goliath situation when he started writing this. It was one of the places he looked. And you remember David and Goliath's story. And remember what David tells Goliath when he approaches him. It's found in 1 Samuel 17. You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled. Those hosts, them are angel armies. That's why we can have the courage, that's why he could have the courage to confront this mammoth man. So much bigger than he was. But he approached him with confidence. And he knew that Goliath and the whole Philistine army just didn't stand a chance because of the Lord of hosts. Now, think about this. They had been there and they've been going over through this. Goliath had been coming out and challenging them for a number of days. And if I'm remembering right, it's a number of weeks. This has been going on. But this guy is huge. And the Israeli army are scared of him. They're there in fear. So why hadn't this Lord of hosts, the angels' army, God's angels' army, why hadn't that thought came to King Saul and to the other Israelite soldiers? Why did it take this little boy to see that? Well, I think maybe we can get a clue about this in Psalms 34. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. Like Elisha's servant, their focus was on their enemy that was right in front of them, not on the Lord of hosts, God's angels that were watching over them. Lesson for us. You have to be looking for God's power in order to receive it. You have to be looking for God's power in order to receive it. David was the only one there that was trusting God enough to believe that God could and would deliver him, deliver them. Now, I'm not a big Bible scholar, but I'm not sure that David has ever saw an angel. I'm not sure he even gave angels a second thought, even in this situation. But this I do know. David has his attention fixed on where his help comes from. He knew God, and he knew God loved him so much that he would take care of him. One of the dangers about talking about angels, we can build them up and be so awesome that we can start placing them on pedestals. And we can forget that the power that they have and all of that awesomeness comes from God. Angels are not really the source of our protection. God is that ultimate source. That's how David could fix his mind on God. Fix his mind on God as the source of that power and that protection. I don't know, Scripture doesn't tell us, but I would not be surprised then that there was an army of angels around them. Maybe that's why a battle had never happened. But I think there was an army of angels around them like there was around Elisha. But their eyes were too focused on the challenge, the danger that was there. And therefore, they couldn't see God's army of hosts. Just because we can't see angels doesn't mean they're not there. Now, just a few thoughts about angels. First thought I had about it that pulled out of there is we don't pray to angels. You notice that Elisha, he never prays to the angels that are there around him. Who did he pray to? He prayed, open the eyes, Lord. Open his eyes, Lord. Prayed to God. Later on in the story, when the army starts coming down into the village, Elisha prays to God again to strike them blind, and he did. Elisha prayed to God, not to the angels. And that's because this vast army of angels didn't belong to Elisha. The angels that were there were summoned to minister to him, but they did not belong to him. They belonged to God, because God is the Lord of hosts. So why would we want to talk to angels when we can go to the commander, to the one that has the power, to the one that is in charge? Now, with saying that, there are people out there that say that they pray to angels. In fact, there are a number of websites that you can go to that will teach you how to pray to certain angels in certain situations that you are facing. And people get drawn into that. But we can't trust that. By trying to talk to angels, they're attempting to do an end run around God. Go to the source, and that's God himself. And we can do that. Hebrews 4 tells us, for we do not have a high priest who was unable to empathize with our weaknesses. Excuse me. But we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are. Yet he did not sin. Let us then approach, and I like the way King James put it here. It says boldly approach. There's a difference there between just approach and boldly approach God's throne, his throne of grace, with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Another sermon in there. Where do you find mercy and grace? At God's throne. From him. Not from the angels. From himself. From God himself. So why talk to angels when we can boldly approach God's throne and we have permission to talk directly to him? So, we don't pray to angels. The second thing I see here is when your loved ones die, they don't become angels. That's a nice thought, but that doesn't happen. Your mama might have been an angel on earth, but when she passed away, she was not made into one of the angelic beings that God created separate from man. Real angels are way more powerful than any human can ever be. A little later in 2 Kings, there's another story there about Sennacherib. He's the king of Assyria, and he comes and he surrounds Jerusalem with a mighty army. And he just kind of tries to intimidate them. Hezekiah is the king at that time. He tries to dishearten them, and so anyways, he comes against them with a mighty army. And he makes the mistake of mocking God. My ears just closed right there. Did that come out? Of mocking God? Did it again. And we read in 2 Kings 19 that night, the angel of the Lord, who was the Lord? The angel of the Lord, went out and put to death 185,000 men in the Assyrian camp. When the people got up the next morning, there were all these dead bodies. Well, Sennacherib, he left out immediately. He left with his tail between his legs, and he never came back. I mean, that's pretty powerful right there, isn't it? But who gave that angel the authority to be able to do that? The Lord did. God did. One of the things that we need to chat about, I guess, is Psalms 8. Because right there it tells us that we are made, mankind is made a little lower than the angels. In other words, we weren't created to be angels. But through the blood of Christ, the New Testament says that we will be placed higher than, in fact, in 1 Corinthians, I think it is, 1 Corinthians, it says we will judge angels, be their judge. So we don't have to be afraid of angels. They are on our side. God has sent them to watch over us. Elisha's servant, when he saw the strong force of soldiers surrounding them, he goes to Elisha, and what does he say? He says, "What shall we do?" Now, it seems like a dumb question, doesn't it? I mean, it's obvious. There isn't anything they can do. It's two against this massive army. There's nothing, absolutely nothing, that they can do. But as dumb as that question may sound, all of us have asked that question ourselves. At times, haven't we? What can I do? You know, remember those times when you're surrounded by situations that you can't control? Times that you're overwhelmed with troubles and difficulties, maybe tragedies. You feel trapped. There's no way out. And so in despair, what do we ask? What can I do? We feel hopeless. We're desperate. And we feel miserable. Why? Because we know that there is nothing that we can do. But that's not the total truth. There is one thing we can do. What Elisha did. We can pray. Pray to the Lord of the hosts, the God of angel armies, to open our eyes, to open our minds, and remind us of His presence. and His angels' presence over us. When we are faced with situations that we can't control, we need to remember that God has not abandoned us. He will not leave us or forsake us, is His promise. Now, I would love to tell you that every time we prayed to God for help, that the heavens opened up and angels came down and all of our troubles would be swept away. And at times that does happen. I've seen God act in mighty, mighty ways. And I'm pretty sure that there was some angelic stuff that went on there. But it doesn't happen that way every time. Remember in John 16:33 that Jesus tells His disciples that in this world you will have trouble. Other translations say tribulation. But take heart. Why? Because I have overcome the world, Jesus says. There are times when no matter how you act, what you say, or where you go, things don't come together the way that you might desire them to come out. When troubles come, when it doesn't look like things are going your way, where are those angels? Where is that mighty force that the Scripture says is there? That's watching over us. Well, they're there. They're at the same place they were at when Jesus was betrayed. Remember when the mob came in that garden that night, came to arrest Jesus? Remember what Peter did? He drew out his sword and he cut off the ear of the high priest's servant. And Jesus picked it up and He put it back on the man and healed him. And Jesus rebuked Peter with these words. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and He will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? Now, that's thousands upon thousands of angels. That's a massive army of angels. So we might ask, where are they at? Where are those thousands upon thousands of angels? What are they doing? And here my imagination comes in again. I just get this picture. I don't know, you ever seen it at the beginning of a football game, the tunnel that the team comes out of? The coach always seems to be standing facing his guys, and they're all pumped and they're ready to get out there and hit somebody and tackle and make a touchdown, and the coach is there and he's holding them back. I got this picture in my mind of God in heaven holding His angels back because it wasn't their time to intercede. You remember earlier that night that Jesus took some of the disciples with Him. And they went into the garden. And Luke 22 tells us that He withdrew about a stone's throw away from them. He knelt down and prayed. Father, if You are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but Yours be done. And don't miss verse 43. An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. Jesus was about to be arrested. He was about to be put on trial and beaten and mocked, and was about to be crucified. But thousands upon thousands of angels didn't come They didn't come down to rescue him from this. But God sent one angel to do what? To strengthen him, to comfort him, and to prepare him for the suffering that he was going to be facing here in just a few hours. Did you notice what Jesus said before that angel came to his side? Remember that? Not my will, but your will be done. There's going to be times when we're not going to be able to figure out what is going on. What is going on in our lives? And there's times that we wonder, where's God at? Where are his angels? Jesus knew what he was going to face. He knew what was coming. But it only took one angel to strengthen him. And that was all that he needed. Remember this. When you're facing tough times and you wonder where God is at, when it looks like God is doing nothing, he isn't doing anything, he's always doing something. When it looks like God isn't doing anything, he's always doing something. He's doing things even when you don't realize he's at work in your life. But God doesn't fix things the way that we want them fixed every time. Again, remember Jesus' prayer. Not my will, but thy will be done. Angels are still there, ministering, strengthening us to face whatever troubles, tribulations, difficulties we might be experiencing. We can picture angels, and when I was making the title slide, I Googled pictures of angels, and I was amazed at how many pictures came up of people and how they picture angels. And the majority of them were these buffed up guys with wings, just powerful looking, massive looking. And that's how we picture them. All powerful. But Elisha prayed that God would open his servant's eyes. And there were horses and chariots of fire between them and this large force. And I like that picture. We like that picture, especially in our own lives. But don't get so focused on the awesomeness of the angels that we forget that it's not the angels that have that true power. It is God that gives them his power. That's what makes angels awesome. It's God's power. Angels are just part of his, maybe this is my carpentry background coming out, but I just think of them as part of his toolbox. It's one of the things that God uses to accomplish his will. Don't ever be misled. Don't ever be deceived in believing that angels are what we should be focused on. Because they're not. It's a nice picture of angels watching over us all day, all night. But they are because God has sent them. They are because God loves us so much that he has sent them. They are simply one of the ways that God uses to show his love for us. By watching over us, by caring for us, by serving us, and by strengthening us to face whatever tribulation we might face. So remember Jesus' words. Take heart. I, Jesus, have overcome this world. Father, it's such an awesome picture for us to picture in our minds of the angels all around us. And they're there. But Father, help us to never put our worship into them. For they are just created like we are by you. And you are the one that tells them to go or to come and where to go and where to come from. You were the one that's given them the power that they have. So, Father, help us to always keep our focus on you. Father, it's tough at times because we're living in this world. And all of the ugliness and the brokenness of this world is all around us. And so many times it's so easy for us to, like the Israeli army, in like Elisha's servant, to focus so much on our troubles, our difficulties, that we take our focus off of you. So, Father, I pray Elisha's prayer this morning for each one of us. Open our eyes to your presence. And Father, let that be our worship. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's turn in your